You know, the world as we know it, it's on the edge of this massive, massive shift. From the huge players in global finance all the way down to the corner store in your neighborhood, these incredible forces of innovation are just rewriting all the rules. This is the story of that disruption, and maybe more importantly, how you can find your way through it.
I mean, that one sentence just says it all, right? It really captures the urgency of what's happening. We're not talking about some slow, gentle change here. The very foundations of our financial system are being shaken up by new players with some really radical ideas. And the crazy part is, it's all happening faster than most of us can even wrap our heads around.
All right, so to really get a grip on what's changing, we first need to take a quick look at what's being left behind. You know, what did this old world actually look like for most of us?
And this quote, man, it just hits the nail on the head. The world a lot of us grew up preparing for was one of stability, of predictability. You'd get a job, you'd work hard, you'd climb that predictable corporate ladder. Well, that world, with its steady careers and its super clear paths to success, it's just fading away. That very predictability is what's being completely upended.
So, what's the engine behind all this chaos? What's driving this incredible change? Well, it's kind of like a perfect storm of technology, brand new ways of thinking, and just this flood of money looking for the next big thing. Let's take a look inside the engine room of this whole revolution.
Okay, let's put this into perspective. Let's just take one industry, fintech. Back in 2003, the total global investment in that entire sector was $34 million. Now, I want you to just hold that number in your head for a second.
Because by 2014, just a little over a decade later, that investment had exploded to $13 billion. That's not just growth, that's a tidal wave of cash pouring into companies that were basically designed to dismantle the traditional banking and finance industry from the inside out. And look, this isn't just a Silicon Valley thing, not at all. Over in China, companies like Alibaba are going way beyond just copying Western tech. They're building entirely new digital ecosystems. Their founder, Jack Ma, said it perfectly. In China, e-commerce isn't just a way to shop, it is a lifestyle. So, what's the secret sauce here? What do all these disruptive companies have in common? This is where it gets really interesting. It often boils down to a model we can call LACIC. They are low margin, asset light, scalable, innovative, and compliance easy. Just think about how a ride-sharing service fits that perfectly. No cars to own, super easy to expand, all built on an app. And then compare that to an old-school taxi company. This model is basically their secret weapon.
Okay, we've talked about these big abstract forces, but let's bring it down to earth and see how this disruption is actually playing out on the ground. We're going to go from the abstract to the concrete with a couple of really fascinating examples of real-world transformation.
First up, let's head over to India and look at their millions of little neighborhood shops, the Kirana stores. Traditionally, as you can see on the left, their whole supply chain is just really inefficient. But you introduce something called a social supply chain management system, which is basically just a smart platform connecting them directly to suppliers, and boom, everything changes. Prices become transparent, costs plummet, and AI can even start predicting demand. It's a perfect example of how technology can empower the little guy.
All right, now for something a little more personal, a story from Thailand. After some really devastating floods, Unilever didn't just hand out aid, they helped a local mom-and-pop shop totally reinvent itself as a platinum store. They gave them better branding, modern ways to display their products, and tons of support. And the result? Sales grew by an unbelievable 400% in just 6 months. It turned a local shop into a thriving hub for the entire community.
Okay, so we've seen how systems and businesses are getting totally turned upside down. But what about us? What about the people leading the charge? And what in the world does this all mean for our own careers? This is where the human side of things becomes absolutely critical.
And this quote from Nobel laureate Dr. Jose Ramos Horta, it really brings it all home. In an age of big data and algorithms and endless spreadsheets, the most important qualities for any leader are things like humility and compassion. You can be the most brilliant strategist in the world, but if you forget the human side of the equation, you're going to fail. It's as simple as that.
So how does this all translate to your career? Well, the old way of thinking, what's on the left, we can call that a fragile strategy. It totally depends on a stable world that, let's be honest, just doesn't exist anymore. Today, what we need is an anti-fragile strategy, one that doesn't just survive all the ups and downs, but actually gets stronger because of them. It's all about having options and being ready to adapt as you go.
Okay, so you're probably thinking, an anti-fragile career sounds great, but what does that actually look like? Well, here's a really powerful, practical idea: the barbell strategy. On one end of the barbell, you have your safe bell. That's your stable, main job. But on the other end, you're growing a spec bell. Maybe it's a side project, a new skill you're learning, or even a small business you're building on the weekends. It's all about balancing that security with real opportunity, so you can explore and pivot without risking everything.
All right, let's zoom all the way out. We've talked business, we've talked careers, so where does all of this come together? Where do technology, business, and people all converge? Well, it's in the city of tomorrow, the smart city.
Just take a second and imagine this. A city where billboards change their ads based on what you've been shopping for, where traffic is automatically rerouted around your daily commute. I know it sounds like science fiction, but this is the very vision that's driving how we're building cities all over the world.
And trust me, this isn't some far-off fantasy. The need for smart solutions is absolutely critical, right now. Just look at these numbers. By 2030, China's going to add 400 million new people to its cities. India will add 215 million. That is over 500 million people moving into cities in just 2 countries. Managing that kind of growth is one of the biggest challenges of our time.
And here's the key takeaway, right? The most important thing to remember is that technology, it's not a magic wand. It can't solve this alone. A truly smart city is built on 3 pillars. You have to have smart governance for intelligent policies, you need smart businesses to innovate, and maybe most importantly, you need smart citizens who are engaged and empowered to actually use all these new tools. And that brings us right to the heart of the matter, the big final question we have to ask ourselves. As we build these incredibly efficient, data-driven cities, are we creating a kind of salvation from all the pressures of modern life? Or are we accidentally building a future of mass surveillance? That's really the central tension of this disruptive new age, and how we answer that question is going to define the world that all of us live in tomorrow.